My name is Sara.
And
this is Rachael, and welcome back to the Historical Ghouls.
Our first location is the Greene County Historical Society Museum. This building behind us used to be a poorhouse in 1861 when the county converted it.
People were often housed or even chained up in the basement here, which at the time was also called the dungeon.
The people that were placed here to work were typically severely mentally ill, some being veterans with issues like PTSD, and the common theme among them all was that most of them were committed against their will.
The facility was usually way over its capacity of 40 to 60 people, usually housing around 100 people in terrible and dirty conditions.
There were many people who lived their entire lives here, born, raised, and died, and there were even generations of families that lived through all of this.
One of the most well-known stories is of a woman who cooked her child in this oven, which is still used today.
With all the pain, suffering, and malice in this place, you could only assume that hauntings would be prevalent here.
Okay, so have you ever experienced any paranormal activity in the museum personally?
Yeah, quite a bit actually. Do you want a specific instance, or how do you want me to answer that?
Just share whatever you'd like.
Yeah, so I've been here for going on 6 years now, and probably one of the more common things is, especially when I first started working here, is I would get here early in the mornings and you could hear somebody walking around on the floor above me, and I would go upstairs and check, and of course nobody was here, and my maintenance guy would come in later and be like, listen dude, have people ever broke in here, and tried to set up house? He's like, no, it's not that, nothing like that at all. He's like, you'll get used to it, they're just testing you out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, it's the ghost, that's what they do. We've seen things here, we've seen people standing at doorways that have kind of just, disappeared. We've heard voices, pretty much you name it, we've experienced it here.
Alright, do you believe any of these, apparitions, do you believe they have to, have any specific intentions by being there?
I don't think so. I think one, a lot of times, they're curious about things that are going on. For example, we've done a lot of work fixing this building up. It was in a fairly bad shape when I took over here. And anytime we, remodel a room or paint or do something like that, you tend to notice more things happening then, and I think it's curiosity as to what's going on in their environment. Probably one of my more vivid things to recount was last fall. I believe it was in early November we had the event. The second day, we were actually serving food here to the people that bought tickets. And I don't know if you guys remember, I'm sure I pointed it out to you, but when I gave you guys the tour, I showed you all that big brick oven that's in the back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we use it. We fire it up and we cook out of it. And I had got in here extremely early in the morning to get the fire going in that so we could make food. And directly across from the oven is a window that, the way the building's laid out, it actually looks back on into another window that's in a hallway in another part of the building. And I saw somebody run through that hallway when I was done at the oven. Now, mind you, I had the building locked up. I locked myself in when I came back in. I thought, somebody broke in. We were robbed this past April, so I'll always immediately go to that. And I started chasing what I thought was a living person around. I looked up the top of the steps there, the marble steps, and I saw we had curtains blocking some of the doorways to keep heat segregated throughout the building. I saw one of those curtains move like somebody had ran through it. I went up there, nothing. Nobody was here. I checked all the doors. Everything was still locked. About the time that was done, one of my staff members got here, and I told them about this. They're like, well, do you want to search the building really, really thoroughly? And I was like, yes, I do. And I searched every nook, cranny, closet, anywhere where a person could be, and there wasn't a soul in this building. And this whole ordeal probably went on for like 30 minutes, me chasing somebody who wasn't here around thinking I was going to have to tackle an intruder.
Yeah.
Just felt like messing with you that day.
Yep.
Our second and third stops are the Huffman and Denny houses. The Huffman house was built by Thomas J. Huffman in 1907.
The house was owned by 3 separate families over the years, including Huffman's family, the Parkinson family, which was TJ's daughter's family, and the Toothman family.
Every family that owned the house made their own additions over time, and each one served its own purpose. The Huffmans used it as a furniture store and a funeral home. The Parkinsons used it as just a funeral home, and the Toothmans used it as law offices.
The Denny house has been here in Waynesburg since before the Civil War. It was the house of Eliezer and Louise Denny and their 3 daughters, Mary, Josephine, and Helen.
Eliezer died in 1910 and left the estate to his family. Josephine died in 1992 and was the last Denny to have lived there. The ownership was changed many times throughout the years, and the house served many purposes such as a bed and breakfast, a private home, and a business.
During the Outsider Paranormal Group's first investigation of the Huffman house, Damon moved an object from the basement onto a shelf where it would take force to be moved. He stepped out for a call. While outside, the other investigators inside came out, alarmed, and asked if he was okay. They heard a banging in the house, went to the basement to see, and saw the object had been moved across the shelf. And in the decrepit basement of the Huffman house, there's also an inscription of the word "leave" carved into the wall above a doorway.
During their investigation at the Denny house, they managed to capture multiple female and 1 male spirits on the portal box. They also seemed to witness a woman in white upstairs, glimpsed shadows, caught light anomalies, heard disembodied voices, unexplained sounds, and more. There also seems to be a little boy named Jack that plays in the basement. Our last location is the Martin Mausoleum in Greene Mount Cemetery, which is better known as the Haunted Mausoleum.
Brothers JJ and JT Martin were the 2 to buy this lot of land, and their initials are now on the crypt. And the first person to be laid to rest inside here was Maud Martin, the daughter of Joseph Martin.
Records indicate that Maud Martin was buried elsewhere while the mausoleum was being completed. Everyone seems to acknowledge that disturbed graves and hauntings often go hand in hand, and Maud was the first, but certainly not the last, to be buried somewhere else, and then later relocated to the mausoleum.
4 of the other Martin family members were later removed from their graves in Frederickstown, PA, to be placed here in the family mausoleum, one of which was Martha Moore Martin, the mother of Joseph and James Martin. She was deceased long before the mausoleum was even built, which is why she was moved here.
Inside their resting place is a stained glass window portrait of Martha that can be seen looking out at visitors. Legend has it that her eyes follow the visitors until they leave.
Some locals say this is because her husband wronged her in life and now she is watching over him forever in death. Other stories say that this is because she's watching over her family from beyond, and she is not only keeping an eye on the people approaching from the outside, but also watching over her family inside the mausoleum. Goodbye, everybody. We were Sara and Rachael.